Do you want to do 30? That gives us 15 seconds.
Cool.
30:00.
There we go.
About
at first when you said 30, I was like,
I thought you meant 30 seconds.
Yeah, I was like,
and I was
that's
so
40
confused.
seconds away.
I was like, that's is my clock? Is my time dot is just so bad because I thought
funny.
that too.
Whoops.
Okay, so
My first clap was a little dinky, but it had enough of a spike. I think it'll be fine.
Yeah, the amplitude doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
There's like a billion seagulls outside. Hopefully they don't get picked up, but that's okay.
That's not a bad background noise to have. Come on. We recorded my podcast for work in person for the first time, and the studio is right next to the break room, and people like, we really need a light that says we're recording because people come to the break room, and I swear to God, they just like have like shouting conversations. And it's like, what? You're still inside. Like, be quiet. You don't have to shout at each other. You're 10 feet away from each other.
Love it. Okay. I don't understand. Wait. Oh, no, okay, I'll bring this up on the podcast and ask you because I don't understand something.
Okay.
You should have Alex go first because I need to actually get up for a second and do something, but I want to get the show started. So
Sounds good.
It'll only take 5 minutes, if that.
Hello, and welcome to episode 179, this July 3rd on the Gaming Fix podcast. I am your host for the day, Allison, here with Pat.
This is much more competent than what I'm used to, so we're off to a good start.
Thanks, and Alex.
I don't understand this like Pisces sun, Aries moon thing meme that's going around.
It's astrology.
Yeah.
I don't understand astrology, so none of the things that people are writing make sense to me.
So basically, it's like you have your different signs for each of those. So like your sun sign is the one that you probably know, your main one, and then you have to like do birth charts for the other ones.
Oh.
One of my favorite things I've ever seen on Twitter, not really picking on astrology. It's fine. It's the thing people are interested in. It's fine. But one of my favorite things ever that I've seen on Twitter is a text message conversation, and it says, it's like to mom, and it says, "Hey mom, what time was I born?" And the reply is, "Stop dating her."
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. I don't understand any of that.
Yeah,
it's just fun. Most people who are into it just think it's fun.
Yeah, I don't believe it, but I think it's kind of fun to think about. But
yeah, that's how most people who are into it look at it, is like it's interesting and fun to think about.
Like the same thing as like personality tests and things. So it's like
those piss me off for some reason, but
MBTIs, man, those can go weird though.
They're weird, but I think they're kind of fun to think about, but they're not. I don't take them really seriously, but people do take them very seriously for like job stuff, which I think is stupid.
And I think the MBTI stuff I find frustrating because everyone I know got into that at the same time, and I happened to be dating at that time, and everyone, that's all they wanted to talk about when you first started talking to someone that you met like through online dating stuff was like, what's your MBTI result? And so I just developed an intense hatred of it because it was just like everyone was talking about it once. So I think I would probably feel that way about astrology if everyone I knew was into it, but it's not the case. So I just think it's kind of fun and interesting to think about versus personality tests, which I think are like really frustrating to me.
Anyways, let's talk. Oh, go for it.
Those personality tests were invented to make money.
Oh yeah,
there's like no science.
Is based on like super old like pagan belief. Yeah. So I have a little more. I think astrology is a lot more fun than personality tests because it's not just something somebody invented to make a bunch of money.
Oh yeah, I said personality tests like, let me take this free one on the internet. Oh, what character do I have a similar personality to?
Those are silly, but they can be fun. That's different.
Yeah, where I'm
also,
like looking
also
up, like,
made to make money, but whatever.
Right. I mean, yeah, but like looking up like, what did people type these fictional characters? It doesn't mean anything, but
that's more fun.
I will agree that
TI.
I guess I am similar to Frodo Baggins. I don't know why, but
what Garfield character are you?
anyways,
there's no
let's
answers.
talk.
Sad.
I don't know if there's any good answer to that, really.
Normal? Lyman? Is that, what, Liz? I'm trying to think of Garfield characters. Oh no.
Arlene? Is that the girlfriend?
That's Liz. Oh, well, Arlene's the cat.
No, I mean Garfield's girlfriend.
Yeah, that's the cat.
I think girlfriend is like
Stretch.
Yeah,
right, but I mean, it's like the cat character that they made to look really weird because she's
the cat that
female.
they made to
look like weirdly sexy, and you're kind of like, I feel uncomfortable looking at this.
Yep. That's you're not.
You're like, why does this cat have weird lips like that?
You're not wrong, and you should say it.
What about Binky the clown?
I don't know who that is.
Oh, is that the like little doll?
Yeah.
That he has? Yeah.
I don't really know a lot of Garfield characters, although someone in my racing group did link that everyone needs to buy Garfield karting during the Steam sale before it.
Well, that game is fine.
It is. Yeah, it is fine. I know because I own both of them already.
I can emphatically say that game is all right.
Yeah.
Can't say that I'll be buying it during the Steam sale, but you guys enjoy yourselves.
You could.
I mean, I could.
It's totally serviceable. It's not a bad game.
Yeah, no, I get that, but also
do you like karting games?
I already own Mario Kart. I don't need another karting game that's serviceable. If I felt like playing a karting game, I would play Mario Kart.
But you can buy the Garfield Kart lasagna bundle for $1.86.
Okay, that is pretty dang cheap.
This is what I'm saying.
Lasagna bundle. Wow, that must have been like 2 minutes in a marketing room. They're like, all right, guys, what do we call this?
Marketing
lasagna bundle.
Sure.
I wonder if making merch for making stuff for Garfield is super easy because they're just like, okay, what is Garfield? Mondays, bad. Lasagna, good. Okay, we got this. Good job, everybody. Let's have an early lunch. Like,
doesn't like the vet.
That's what marketing. That's as a marketing professional, I can tell you that's how marketing works.
Just boil it down
not that
to
far off. That's not that far off from how it actually works.
Yeah, like the lasagna bundle, you're like, wait, that's 2 games in there. Oh my, okay. Why am I considering this? This is not
$1.
Okay.
I have been in the room with 4 people laying on the floor, staring at the ceiling, and one person writing stuff on a whiteboard and just stream of consciousness saying whatever comes to mind. And then eventually one of those things was circled, and then we were done.
Why does that sound weirdly fun to me? And
it is fun. Those are the fun days.
Where you're just like, I don't know, let's just think of a thing and go with it. Okay.
And everybody at the company hates you because they're like, they just get to sit in there and have fun all the time. And we're kind of like, yeah.
Legit.
Kind of.
They're like, you're not wrong. Well, anyways, everybody hates video games.
It's I only like board games and simulations.
I'm at this point where I'm just playing golf video games, so I don't know what's up with my life. Golf and
that's a simulation. Mario Golf is a simulation.
And then also still on my mobile rhythm game bullshit, but that's where I'm at with my life. But some other people have played some other things or done other things, and Alex, you played a really mediocre mystery story. What was that?
I'll come back to the mediocre one. Yeah, I'll come back to the mediocre one.
Okay.
I have 3 things on our list here. They're noted as a really mediocre mystery story, a really great mystery story, and a really good story marred by a really bad ending. So let's kind of turn it into like a poop sandwich where the poop is on the
Oh,
outside. So I'm going
okay.
to start with the really good story that has a really bad ending.
And I know what
Um,
that is.
yep. So I think we talked about this in March of this year, I
I
want to say.
think so. You've definitely brought it up on the cast.
Yeah, and
Um,
that is a little anime called Wonder Egg Priority, which
yeah.
I think my takeaway at that time was basically, hey, this seems really good, but let's wait to recommend it until the final episode comes out cuz it's coming out in late June.
Yeah, and at that point, and to this point, still, I've seen one episode of it, and then at that, when you told me that, I was like, okay, I'll hold off till the final episode.
Yeah.
And
And it's like I think I would maintain my recommendation
that's interesting.
where like I think if you watch that show up until where they kind of left off, it's not bad. Like you would have a good time with it. And it's interesting and they go places with it and it's creative and it's fun. But yeah, they put out the final episode this week and it was absolutely terrible. Like it was maybe the worst conclusion to a show I've ever seen. Like, and that's including Evangelion, which I really don't like. Where basically they promoted it as saying like, okay, we're gonna have an hour-long special for our last episode because they were juggling a lot of balls, spinning a lot of plates. Like they set up all these plot points, and it's like, all right, how are they going to solve this in one episode? Oh, they're going to announce an hour-long episode for the end. Great. Okay, that gives them plenty of time. So the episode finally went up. You could finally watch it, and the first half of it, it was a recap. It was a recap episode, and it should be noted, episode 8 of the show was also a recap episode. So in a 13 episode series, you got 2 recap episodes. Basically.
Man, they really think you're forgetting a bunch of shit. If they're or they're just trying to get it like cheap. They don't have to animate new things.
There's some other reasons there. I'll get to that, but yeah. So the first half of the like series finale or season, I don't know. They left it in a place where it could have a second season, but it wouldn't be earned or deserved. But anyways, it's just terrible because like even in the recap episode they remind you, it was good for me because I haven't watched the show in 3 months, but they remind you of all these plot points that are like all up in the air and interesting and weird and cool, and then it just kind of ignores all of those and then just starts like a new story for the new part. Like it takes these characters and none of them are acting like themselves, like they're like it's like they're completely different characters, and they're just throwing stuff at the wall like, oh, all of a sudden, oh, by the way, this one character we've all known since the start, she's a robot. And then the other characters are like, oh, well, fuck her then. We don't give a shit about robots. And it's like, what?
That's
When has any of this come up before?
I'm kind of off the I've been paying attention, but I also don't really have a lot of context for this conversation because I have not watched the show, but that sounds shitty.
It's really dumb and it makes no sense. Like it's just really aggressively mediocre where it started really strong.
The first episode, I remember I was going to recommend it to you because I was like, wow, this is really interesting. The animation is just beautiful. It's covering some really interesting topics. It was just like, it started off incredibly strong where I thought like, wow, could be something really spectacular. And then it just went, ooh, is not great. And you said it's one of the worst anime endings you've seen, which is a lot because the same studio that did this also did The Promised Neverland, where its last episode is basically like, from what I haven't seen the last episode, I watched the first season and then I read the manga, but it's basically like a slideshow. Like,
I actively haven't watched it either, but I've heard that they
yeah, it's
completely
basically they're
whiffed
just
on it.
like, all these things happened. The end, and you're just like, what the
Like,
shit?
what?
But it's like, but that's another show where the first season is so good,
Mm-hmm.
and it's just like really tense. It's wonderfully animated. It's just
Yeah,
every element of it is good, but it's like
it's got
then it
some
just
moments where you're like, like the whole
right.
thing about like the memories from being a baby thing was kind of weird, but all
That is
right.
kind of well.
You,
That's
you,
from
you,
the manga.
it is
It's
from the
like
manga, but you can
there's
accept
like
it.
right. There's like some dumb stuff in there, but it's like it's basically toned down from the manga. I
Yeah,
mean,
and
like
then
basically being dumb, but it's
yeah,
like
and yeah, they apparently, because I haven't watched it, but everyone I've heard speak about it says they completely whiff the second season. Like,
yeah,
if the first season is like an 8 out of 10, the second season is like a 1 out of 10, is what I've heard.
right.
Like really
Yeah,
bad.
and it's like this studio has done it
Yeah.
another other times as
Yep.
well, and
They
it's
also
just
did
like
Darling in the Franxx, which is very much a show that starts extremely strong, and then in the last 2 or 3 episodes just totally whiffs it. Just they're currently doing a show called Shadow's House, which is beloved. Like the original material is super beloved, and apparently they're completely messing up the ending of this too. Like they're just going off script, basically saying, "No, we're gonna make our own ending," and it's terrible. So like, it seems like, and looking from the outside in, it seems like the production management of this studio is terrible. Like, it's just awful, and um, there's a lot of stories coming out, and it was coming out near the end of Wonder Egg Priorities for season, or not for, like the original run's ending, that like animators were in the hospital because of they were overworking and exhausting themselves, and like there was like
yeah. Wasn't there somebody
severe.
who's like wasn't it like the creator or the director or something who was like went to the hospital and then immediately was like, all right, time to go back to work after getting out of the hospital. I don't know.
Something like that. I don't remember if it was the director, but I remember hearing about animators for sure.
Yeah.
And like, because this was like basically a passion project for them. It was a fully original story, and they did it because they loved it. And but yeah, it sounds like the production management, like whoever was above, like the animators did an excellent job, the sound designers did a great job, the voice actors nailed it. But like, the story just seems like, because they were given 3 months to work on this, and you can read like reports saying that they didn't start work on this last episode until like 2 or 3 weeks before. And it's like, how do you bungle it? Like, and by that I mean like, they didn't start storyboarding it until like 2 or 3 weeks before. Like, they didn't even have the ending written, so they had to kind of rush that. And then they went through all like the keyframe animations, and that finished like 3 days before it was airing. And apparently some of the last like cleanup animations happened like a couple hours before it aired. So it's like, if you have 3 months and you're only working on it in the last 2 weeks, like it's very much like a cyberpunk situation where it's really terrible management, like kicking the knees out from something which could have been really fantastic. Because you have good people working on it and they care about it a lot, but totally whiffed. It's really unfortunate. So like, if you're looking at it, it's hard, because if you look at it as just objectively as a product, as a thing you're watching, it's bad. But if you are considering the human element and thinking about like the people that made it and the conditions that it was made in and all that kind of stuff, then it just becomes a really sad story.
Yeah, it's just it's depressing because I mean, like it's horrible that they were working this long, but you really got the feeling from them that this is my passion project. Like, this is something
It
that they're
shows.
really passionate about putting out. And I feel like you see that in the like from watching the first episode, where it's just this beautifully animated, just this unusual, interesting story, and it's well written, and
It's really good.
It's really great, and you get the feeling that it is this passion project, and then it's just sad and a bummer that this is how it had to be.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Super unfortunate. So yeah, Wonder Egg Priority. Watch it up to episode 12 and just consider the cliffhanger it leaves off on as being an interesting prompt for whatever your mind can come up with, because it's going to be significantly better than what they put out. Yeah. So that's Wonder Egg Priority. All right, so let's take this turd sandwich, this just outer layers of poop, and let's have like a lovely center that is whatever your favorite is. What would you like in between a couple of poops?
Well, that is a.
I don't have an answer for this one.
I didn't realize it as soon as I was saying it. It's like, this can't end anything but terribly. So yeah, I talked about this a couple weeks ago, maybe a month or two ago, and said, hey, this could be really great depending how it ends. And hey, it turns out it ended fucking amazingly. So Odd Taxi. Allison, have you heard much about Odd Taxi?
Just that you've told me to watch it, and then everything people say about it is that it's just fantastic.
Yeah, so I'm gonna like use big words, and I'm gonna say like this show should go down as like a modern classic. Like people should be recommending it in the same breath as things like Cowboy Bebop. Like it is maybe the best show I've ever seen. Like it's extremely good. I recommend it to literally anyone. Like there's no caveats there. There's nothing like, it's not the normal anime thing of like, oh, there's some weird stuff you have to get past or whatever. No, it's just extremely exceptional. Like it's, if you like mystery stories, which I really do, it's essentially like the perfect mystery story. And it's a really, really perfect show to watch with someone and just like not read comments, not read anything, and just theory craft with someone. Like just have fun with it and be like, oh, wait, so they did this thing here and then, oh, this connection here. Oh, I wonder if that's that. And like just watching it with someone else makes it a fun experience. And like, I would heavily recommend it. So like, Pat, I would recommend it. You watch it with your partner, because I imagine you both would have a fun time with it. If Andre was here, I'd recommend it. Like he watch it with his, and like Allison, if you watch it with like your sibling or something like that, like, or just on your own, like it's just really amazing. They nail every part of it, and like it's a really interesting story, because what happens is it is all taking place, at least from the start, in this big city. Basically, I believe it's Tokyo. I don't remember if they actually name it, but yeah, it's a big city.
I don't know. I'm looking at details.
Okay.
I thought it said that it takes place in Tokyo, but
yeah, I can't remember if it's actually Tokyo, like if they call it Tokyo, or if it's like a, like a Tokyo, like a fake Tokyo.
Sure.
But it's this city that feels super alive. Like it feels like it's a huge city. And what you're getting is just a look at it through the lens of this taxi driver, and through the people he picks up and has connections with, and like his personal friends and the people like his regular clients and stuff like that. So you're just seeing it through this lens, and you're slowly starting to see that like all of these completely separate storylines and all these completely separate, disparate characters somehow have these like tangential relations to one another. And it's like, it's just, you're starting to kind of see like the smaller community that's formed within like this person's life and the city around them. And it turns into a whole mystery, because while all these little storylines are going on, there's also this like overarching one where you keep hearing on the news in the background, like there's this high school girl who's gone missing. And it turns into this thing where it's like, oh, did this taxi driver pick this girl up? So now suddenly the police are getting involved, and he's getting pulled over and like questioned to look at his tapes and stuff like that. And it's like, oh wait, and it looks like he drove around one of her friends and stuff like that. Like it's starting to just kind of weave in all of these like disparate storylines, and it does it like really masterfully, and all of it feels completely natural, and the characters are amazing. And it's taking some really, really fascinating storylines, like and doing like really modern things with them. For example, there's like this high school, well, this guy who graduated from high school, but it flashes back to when he was in high school, where he's like, this character is, he's not popular. He's not particularly good looking. So in high school, he didn't really have anything to latch onto, except for he collected erasers. He kept finding like rarer and rarer erasers, and people would be like, whoa, where'd you find that? That's cool. And like that became like a status symbol among them. It's like, I don't know, if you were in high school and you collected fancy pencils or Pokemon cards or something like that. It's very reminiscent of that, and it feels like a very real experience. And then it fast forwards to like the modern times, where he's playing like a gotcha mobile game. Like he's just playing this gotcha game and he's putting in tons of money and like putting himself into debt because he wants to like be the top of the leaderboards kind of thing. Like, and they're relating it back to like this whole eraser kind of mentality, and it's really smart. And like then he's suddenly related to like three other yeah, it's fantastic. And another really cool aspect of it is like while it's in itself a really fantastic show that's just encapsulated in itself, I normally don't like when shows or whatever do this, but Pat, you'll probably love it. There is external material that makes the show even better. There is actually an audio drama. It's basically a podcast of one of the side characters. He does it, and it's alongside every episode, and it's just like little separate side stories
Interesting.
that are filling in a bunch of information. And what's happening is there is essentially like a bugged pen, like it's this really colorful pen that like has, it's like wiretapped or something, and he's like playing recordings from it. And as you're watching the show, you would never even notice it if you weren't paying attention, but different characters have this pen on them in different episodes. And like, so there's this whole other layer side story that's telling the journey of this pen. And it actually be like the very ending, like the last scene, that pen is crucial. And it's really fascinating. So like it's total masterpiece. I think it's pretty easily in my top 5 of all time. And unfortunately, I think it might go like just criminally underwatched, at least right now. But it's very amazing. Super.
It's one of
recommended
those
for
shows
anyone.
though where it's might be criminally underwatched, but it's something where every single person I've seen talk about it has been talking about it in that same kind of like reverential, this is an amazing show kind of way. So
Yeah.
it might go under the radar, but I think it'll be a cult classic at the very least.
Absolutely. Yeah. But watch it on Crunchyroll, watch the whole thing, enjoy it, come up with theories. Like it's the best part of a mystery. It's all the best parts of a mystery, and it totally nails it. But you know what isn't? We've made it to the other poop.
Oh no.
So I was pretty hopeful for this one, which is unfortunate. But hey, remember how everyone was really, really in love with the House of Fata Morgana?
People were. Oh my god, I own it too. I haven't played it yet, but
I've still seen a lot of people really in love with House of Fata Morgana who finished it.
Yeah, I have trouble with it because it's not terrible. I will say it's not terrible, but if you asked me to give it a rating today on our scale, which is, 5 stars, and I don't use half stars, I'd be debating between a 2 and a 3. Like I tend to appreciate novel stories, things that are doing cool things and like doing a nuanced job of representing, underrepresented people or subjects or stuff like that. And it does, it does that. It swings for the benches. Like there is a significant intersex character. They touch on things like homophobia and transphobia and all that kind of stuff. And like it is going for it does all those things in a relatively nuanced way. Like there's pretty intense depictions of things like abuse, and like they go into what being a rape victim is like, and like it's going into really tough subjects, and it's broaching them relatively strongly. And I think all in all, it's not bad, but it's also not good. Like the thing it suffers from, in my opinion, is it is just a profound lack of subtlety. Like, it is also kind of a mystery story. Like I've been debating if it's a mystery story at this point, because I feel like it's just so poorly done as a mystery story that you might just consider it something else. Like maybe it's just kind of a drama that's using mystery elements. I don't know. But like, okay, so imagine if what's a popular touchstone? Like The Sixth Sense, let's say. Like Sixth Sense, not a great movie, but it's something I can spoil without upsetting a bunch of people. Like I would actually.
You'll still probably upset somebody though.
Whatever, they'll deal with it. Like I would go for Knives Out because that's a good mystery. Or like I could give examples from Odd Taxi, but y'all haven't seen it, so. But like let's take The Sixth Sense because that's a touchstone we all know. We all know the twist, right? Yeah, great. You go through the whole movie. Guess what? Bruce Willis was dead the whole time. And the thing about The Sixth Sense is, like, again, not the best movie of all time. Kind of became a meme and a joke even back then. But the first time you watched it, if you weren't spoiled, it's the kind of thing where you could have paused it before the big reveal and sat there and talked with someone and been like, you know what? Look, I think this is going on, and this is like you can look at all these things, and there's evidence there. It's like, oh yeah,
there's all the pieces there. Like I watched it, as an adult after knowing the twist, hearing all the I see dead people, repeated a million times. Yeah. But you can see but there are like hints there. You could piece it together if you were thinking it through. And I think it's still an overall well-made story, even if you already know the twist.
Totally. And it's relatively underspoken with like, it's soft. Yeah. It's subtle. Like the red colored things. You're like, oh, that's kind of interesting. What are those? But
it's the dinner with his wife where it does like, they're not communicating. And it's like, like if you don't know what that he's already dead, you'd be like, oh, this is showing just how far separated they've become. And then, but then you could put it together that, hey, they didn't actually ever, talk to each other at all.
Yeah. Like, and again, I'm not going to say it's a good movie. It's fine, but like,
I think it's a good movie, but
I'm not going to say it's the best movie of all time, but for what it is, it's good. And so the thing that carries it and the thing that makes it work is that subtlety, is that like, okay, you could piece this together and it's kind of earned it. And like that twist happens and then it kind of plays like a montage of like, okay, this is the stuff that happened that, explains it. Okay, cool. Like if someone wasn't paying attention, they didn't notice all those things. That's awesome that it has the reveal. It's like, wow, okay, you're connecting all these. Okay, cool. Awesome. Now imagine if The Sixth Sense started in somewhere in the first 10 minutes and some person went up to Bruce Willis and was like, hey, big ghost Whackin here, and pointing at him with like finger guns. And then Haley Joel Osment finally realizes he sees dead people, and then it does like a crash zoom on his face where he goes like, oh, like with the Macaulay Culkin hands on the side of the face, being like really not subtle. And then it spends half an hour pointing at that person that went, hey, big ghost Whackin here, and like saying like, how subtle were we?
Kind of The Sixth Sense to involve this though. You're selling me on this, but not in. I see what you mean.
But like, yeah, like it's the kind of thing where it is incredibly not subtle, and then it pats itself on the back a lot. So that's what happens in the House of Fata Morgana a lot. Like where it's basically an anthology series at the start where it's like 4 different separate stories. And then of course it's going to tie them all together somehow. But in each of those 4 stories, they're kind of encapsulated mysteries. And I would say if each of them is like an hour or 2 hours, within the first 5 or 10 minutes, you can probably predict the ending with like 80+% accuracy within those first 5 to 10 minutes, because it's really not subtle. And then it does the back padding thing I was talking about. Like there are literally dialogue moments where it's basically a narrator character being like, whoa, did you see that coming? Oh, who could have predicted that? Like, it's just like very self-congratulatory. And I found it just so frustrating. The characters are pretty okay. Like they end up being characters you'll care about. The overall story is fine. It's okay. Like, I don't know. How do you all feel about the movie Black Swan?
I haven't seen it, but I don't know.
So
it's not very I don't know.
For like the way I interpret Black Swan is like it's an okay story that's trying really, really fucking hard to be edgy and dark. Like it's like,
I mean that's Aronofsky in a
that's definitely Aronofsky's whole
like
thing.
as somebody that has seen Mother, that is
and I'm not a particular
100% Aronofsky.
Yeah, I'm not a particularly big fan of Aronofsky movies. I usually watch them. Actually, Black Swan's the last one I watched. Has he done any other than Mother and Black Swan since like in the last 10 years?
No, but
I like The Fountain. Okay, most people don't. But
no, I like The Fountain.
But yeah, I would say House of Fata Morgana reminds me of Black Swan in that like it's trying really hard to be dark and edgy, like without really earning it in a lot of cases. I would say like it's very predictable in that you'll see oh, these characters are having a good time, oh, and then they're going to be put through extreme suffering because reasons, and then it's going to spend like half an hour pontificating on that and showing you every detail and like being really proud of like how much they're causing these characters to suffer, but like it just never feels earned. It's just,
yeah, and I don't like that kind of storytelling personally. It's a pretty big turn off for me.
It's just it's that's my biggest issue with it, is it's predictable, and a lot of the stuff it goes for doesn't feel earned. Like I think if they'd cut that stuff a little bit and like they'd been more subtle and all that kind of stuff, it would have been pretty good. I would have probably, if I was giving a star rating, it would have been probably closer to a 3 or a 4. But as it stands, if you're looking at it as a mystery novel, it's bad. Like straight up, it's bad. But if you're approaching it as kind of like, I don't know, an edgelordy kind of romance or drama kind of novel, it's okay. Like I wouldn't say it's terrible, but like you can do better. I don't know. There was one really cool thing it did, and I don't think this is a spoiler by any means, so if you're still planning on playing it, go for it. This won't spoil anything, but it did this cool thing where it didn't call attention, like this is the kind of subtlety I like, where it didn't call attention to the fact that it was doing this thing, and I just kind of happened upon it, where it's telling one of its stories, its anthology stories, and I was at this point kind of thumbing through it, just like clicking. I was playing on the Switch, so I was clicking through it and just trying to move on and half paying attention. Then I was like, oh wait, what happened? So I opened up the log of like the previous stuff that had happened, and I noticed like, that's weird. A lot of what was being said is censored. Like it has like asterisks, and it's like, what? And okay, wait, like I'm looking at the current sentence that's on the screen. It's like, this character said this to that other person. And then in the log, it was saying like, beep said beep to beep. And I'm like, what? Okay, that's interesting. And so I went back through the log, and then there was like this red text, which was like, it was like a separate character having a separate conversation in the background. And it was actually really interesting. And I was like, oh, I just happened upon this and happened to see it. And then, so I just kept checking the log every now and again. And yeah, there was like a whole second storyline going on alongside that you never would have noticed if you just hadn't opened the log. So like, that was cool. And I think that was in our group chat. I said, hey, Fata Morgana is finally doing something cool. And it did that for that one story and then never again. It didn't do anything else like that, which it was unfortunate, but at least that part was cool. So, truth be told, I'm done with it. I looked up the ending online because I was so done with it. I just read a plot summary, and it turns out I was like probably like 4/5 of the way through or something like that, maybe even closer to the end. But yeah, it's a bummer. I was really going into it hoping to love it because it sounded like something I would really enjoy, but
Too
watch
bad.
Watch Odd Taxi. That fucking rips. It does everything right.
Speaking of Aronofsky and how he makes movies that are apparently he has a movie coming out called The Whale.
Oh, that's the one with Brendan Fraser.
Brendan Fraser plays the title character, and I was like, "Oh, a whaling movie! I could be into that." I find no.
If only it was a movie about whaling.
It's about a 600-pound middle-aged man connecting with his 17-year-old daughter. The two grew apart after Charlie abandoned his family for his gay lover, who later died. Charlie then went on to binge eat out of pain and guilt. Fuck off.
Yeah, that sounds like exactly what I'm describing.
No, thank you. I will not be
edgy.
The Whale.
Film Twitter was having a like where we're like, oh, Brendan Fraser's back. Oh God, why? No.
I was hoping it'd be like a commentary on like free to play games. You know, The Whale.
Sure.
Yeah.
But
sure. I mean, that'd be
I feel
like you can make an interesting movie out of that.
I love that we've moved into an era where it's like, I know, let's go back to lots of fat phobic jokes and depictions of characters.
Woo!
Like it seemed like that was kind of gone for a while.
I know.
Now it's like back in force. Love it.
Yeah, apparently this is based off of a play, I think, and I read a review of the play that it does not sound good.
No, I can't imagine anyone taking this premise and doing something not very problematic with it. On multiple levels. You got everything here. You got gay man abandoning his family. You got grief and binge eating. You got trying to reconnect with a dog. Like, oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
Well, if that sounds appealing to you, you should play The House in Fata Morgana.
There you go.
So, anyways, we hopefully we have
Fountain.
some other.
That's a good
movie. I like that movie, and it's like looking through I forgot that was Aronofsky because I was like, oh yeah, that is a good movie.
People didn't really like it that much, but yeah.
It's a tough movie, but it's good.
Yeah, it's challenging.
It's challenging. Anyways, is the board game you're bringing challenging? Oh my god!
No, there's a better. Yeah, well, in the fountain, they go to a Mayan temple at one point, right? Like,
yes.
Lost Ruins of Arnak is not a board game about cultural appropriation. It does have a theme of like, of kind of like, you know, adventure, treasure hunter, whatever. So the overall theme is can be tiring. However, they do a very good job, I think, of making it not appropriative of any existing cultures, really. It's like vaguely Pacific Islands, but it's not like it cribs a bunch of Pacific Island indigenous iconography or imagery.
Is it kind of like Spirit Island in that way?
Even less so. I think Spirit Island draws even more heavily from indigenous art from that region. But this Lost Ruins of Arnak has almost a like vaguely fantasy vibe going on. Like there's very little. It's clearly like a real world island in the Pacific, like thematically, but with like kind of like Kong. I think that's a good touchstone. It's kind of like the Monster
Jackson
Island stuff. Not the Kong, not the Peter Jackson one. That one has a lot of very specific imagery of indigenous peoples. This is more, there's nobody on the island, so it's like abandoned. So there's not like art of people really in the game. And there's like monsters and stuff that are very reminiscent of like the Monster Island kind of thing. And the ruins all look like they could be in different fantasy stories. Not just like, it's not just like a Mayan or South American or Central American or Pacific Islander aesthetic. So anyway, it's clear that there's some attention being cared to not just make it like the worst parts of Indiana Jones and stuff. And the art's beautiful. And it is a board game that is have either of you heard the term point salad before?
Yes.
No.
So it refers to a kind of board game that is basically like giving you lots of different ways to score points, and the person with the most points at the end wins. This particular game is a combination of a worker placement and a deck builder. So worker placement being a Euro game mechanic where you put little guys on spaces on the board in order to usually collect resources. And then you use those resources to complete actions and score you points. And one of the things you're also doing in this game is building a deck like you would in something like Slay the Spire or, Griftlands or any of those like kind of popular deck building games that exist now, where you're kind of, but in this game, you're buying them from a central selection of cards that everybody can buy from. And it's not the first game to combine those two elements. It's not even it's not there's some unique mechanics, but it's not like it's like some brand new thing. But it came out late last year, and people have been buzzing about it quite a bit for the last several months. Board games are interesting because they're physical products, right? So they're not like video games where people can go, oh, you should try this game, and then you just go buy it. They print a certain number of copies of a board game, and then people go buy it, and then they there's buzz that's generated, and then everybody wants it, and then you have to wait for another printing of it, and then the buzz generates a little bit more and stuff. Like it tends to kind of hype kind of comes in waves. So usually if a game is like really big, you don't hear about it unless it was kickstarted and people lost their minds for this like $10 million Kickstarter. You don't really hear about it until a few months later. Even like sometimes even reviewers won't even get it or make content about it until months after its initial release. So I heard about it on the Shut Up and Sit Down podcast, and that was kind of what made me interested, and had a chance to play it the other day. And it was a winner of a bunch of Golden Geek Awards for 2020 on Board Game Geek, which are cool. But then it also won the Spiel, which is like one of the, or I guess it was a nominee and maybe didn't win. But that's like the huge board game award in Europe. That is like the one that everybody is gunning for. So anyway, in this game, you're playing as these like explorers that have come to this island to try to find. Really, you're not even trying to find treasure. You're not a treasure hunter. You're trying to like research and learn about the island, and learn about the temple there, and the ruins, obviously. And so what you're doing is on your turn, you have two workers. You're placing them on different sites. At the beginning, there's just 4 sites available to you. You get different resources from them. You use those resources to buy cards, and they're cards that are things like a whip or an airplane or binoculars. And each card is super unique. They each do like very different things that are themey in a fun way. So like the binoculars, when you play them, you can activate any of the sites on the board, the places that you would normally place a worker. You can just get the benefits of one of those sites without placing a worker there, because you're looking through the binoculars and you're like seeing what's there and getting the thing that's there. And so then you have to explore further out sites. To do that, you have to pay a certain resource, and you have to play cards that give you the travel cost of going there. So you might need a boat or a car, or a plane will give you anything. So you go to these new sites, you discover them, they get played from a stack of tiles, so you don't know what's going to be there at first. And then a monster will also get played on them. So they're like giant spiders or dragons or whatever. And so you can score points by defeating the monster. It'll give you a little ability. There's this research track that you can run up on the side where you spend resources to advance on the research track. And you get different bonuses and rewards, and then more points. And then the cards all have point values on them. You're going to get more points for discovering locations, but since you don't know it's there, it may not be the best thing for you in terms of resources. So you can also hang back and forego the points for discovering locations, and instead let other people do it, and then take advantage of just the places that are going to help your strategy. So there's all these different sort of mechanics and places to go. And I think it combines into this really, really, really satisfying puzzle, because my go-to game for this type of experience has always been Seven Wonders. I like that game significantly more than a lot of other like medium weight point games. And I think this one is the first game since Seven Wonders that could become my go-to for this instead, because it doesn't have the problem that many of these kinds of games have. Played a different game called Hippocrates a couple of weeks ago that not exactly the same genre, but it's also a Euro. And I felt like in that game, I made a mistake on turn 1, and I could have just conceded at that point.
Hmm.
The only reason I continued to play the game is because it would have screwed over the 2 other people that I was playing with to not have a player there when the game was set up for 3 of us to play. But it was miserable because it was clear that like I failed the chess game looking ahead part on the first turn. What I really love about Lost Ruins of Arnak is you spend the first round and even some of the second round. There's only 5 rounds, so it plays pretty fast. But and each player is taking their turn until they're out of stuff to do, and then they pass, and the next round starts. And during the first round, you're kind of just like feeling out. You're doing a little bit of everything to kind of feel out where the game's going to go and see what kind of cards you're going to have available, because the cards you buy in that first round are going to become available to you the next round, for instance. And so it's fun because it's not like there's some big comeback mechanic, because I don't particularly like that either, when it's like someone can significantly outplay you and then you can gotcha them late in the game and come back. But it has a feel of like you're kind of through the game, you're kind of looking at your options and going, well, what can I do to score the most points right now? And what can I do to set myself up to score more points next time? And I think it actually works and is satisfying, instead of how these games often go, where you're like, oh, never mind, I screwed up a few turns, so now I'm so far behind, there's no way for me to catch up. And I think it works really well in that way. And I think it makes it a really good game for both people who are new. It's intimidating when you first look at it because it's got like this big board with all this different stuff on it. But once you kind of know how to play, it has so many different layers and places you can go. In the game that I played with friends the other night, I did a big focus on exploration, and I ended up winning because I had a ton of points from having explored locations, but I did very little research. So then I played a solitaire game yesterday. It has solo rules for an AI player, and focused hard on research and won, and didn't do hardly any exploration. And my friend who I was playing with, their game was like totally different than mine, because they were focusing on getting cards that allowed them to draw and play more cards. So their turn, I looked over and they were like way more actions deep than me, and I passed way before them because they had so many cards they could continue to play. So your games can just look very different, even the people playing at the same time you can have just very different approaches, and there's ways to make them work because of the ways to score points.
Kind of sounds like Civ in that capacity, like how in Civ you can focus on culture versus science versus building wonders. Like you're playing the same game, but you're approaching it from different angles.
And I think what I like here is that you do have to, in a lot of Euro games, if like to take like the old joke of farming games as an example, I'm not talking about a specific farming game, but just conceptually, in a lot of Euro games, it's like, okay, I'm deciding on turn 2, I'm going to focus on sheep and only sheep. And I'm going to do everything in my power to score as many sheep as possible. And you can win the game by just like laser focusing that one thing and directing all of your efforts to it. What I like in this game is, to be really successful, you should find a thing to push on, but you still kind of want to participate in every aspect of the game. So you don't feel like, it's not like, well, I'm going to focus on research, which means I'm never going to get the fun of flipping over a tile and seeing what monster is going to be there and putting my little guy there. You're still probably going to do that once or twice in the game, because you're going to be in a situation where it's like, well, I have these resources to do this. That's probably the best way for me to score a little bit more points. Maybe I'll get some good stuff out of it that I need to. So I think it works really well in that way of like incentivizing you to play multiple paths to try to poke at where you can get the most points. And the player interactivity is there too. I've had a few times when I was blocked, or when someone took the card I wanted, and it was like infuriating.
Yeah. Is it kind of like Civ in that where you'll kind of start down one path, and if you decided halfway through, no, I'm going to go down a different path, it's like totally infeasible and like not viable? Or are you able to change lanes relatively fluidly?
I certainly think you could change lanes more capably than in a lot of similar games like this. I think It depends on what your opponents are doing too. If somebody is having like a ton of success focusing research and you're racing them on that research track board, and then on round 4 you go, oh, this isn't working out, I'm going to focus on collecting cards now, you might be too far behind on the card collecting side of things to make it work. But I think there's still a lot more room for changing up your strategy in this game than there is in most Euros that I've played. And that's one of the things. I have an interesting thing. I used to like very much dislike Euros, and I much preferred to like Ameritrash is what people refer to it as, like very themey,
Actually,
like strategy games and stuff games where it's like lots of miniatures on a board that are maps that you're pushing around and rolling dice for and stuff. And as I get older, my tastes are much more moving in the direction of wanting like really crunchy Euro games that have lots of like moving parts and competing elements. And Arnak is like, if you're someone who is like the what I described at first, if you're kind of like, I don't want to play games about farming, which is what I always said about Euro games, I can't recommend Arnak highly enough because it's really tight mechanically and a really fun puzzle. It's exceedingly well balanced. That's another thing about it, is everything going on has so many checks and balances. Like one of my favorite cards in the game is the horse, because it gives you a gold, a kind of compass, which are 2 resources, and you get to draw a card when you play it. So it's like free real estate. Like it's so much, you get so much out of playing that one card. But it's also costs you 4 gold, and it's only worth 1 victory point at the end. And when I first saw it, was like, whoever gets the horse is going to win, because that card is so good. But the game is so well balanced, and there's so many other things you could do with that action to buy it, the action to play it, and the resources spent playing it, that it never at any point felt like anyone got screwed because of some kind of imbalance or because of randomness. Because there's almost no randomness in the game. The only thing that's truly random is what cards are available. And there's 2 kinds of cards you can buy. Otherwise, and there is some randomness when you on like tile placement, but you can always strategize around it. And when it comes to your personal deck, this isn't like Dominion where you're building a like 40 card deck over the course of the game. You theoretically you could, but it's an interesting deck building system where when you buy an item card, you play your cards over the course of a round. At the end of the round, you shuffle your played cards and place them under the remaining stack of cards. So like if you play a round and you didn't see your binoculars card, there's 10 cards in your deck, you played 5 cards, you can be sure you'll get your binoculars the next round because it's in those 5 remaining cards, and your played cards that you've just shuffled go under the stack of cards that you didn't get to draw this round. And that's how items are acquired too. They go at the bottom of your deck during the round, so you can be almost sure that you'll get them the next round when it starts. So it adds an element of hand management, so you can kind of plan, even though it is technically random. You'll be able to tell when you're getting certain things, or you'll be able to tell if you have a very high chance of getting a certain thing next in your hand. So it's that, like, mitigating the RNG and making it super balanced, I think, are the 2 things that make it a joy to go back to. And then also the art is like astoundingly gorgeous. It's a stunning game. As someone who finds Euro game art to generally be kind of drab and a little boring, this game is like vibrant and colorful and really fun to look at. And it has like plastic tokens that are really fun for like arrowheads and jewels and stone tablets. So it's beautiful and fun to like touch and interact with too.
Cool. That sounds like a really fun game, and something I definitely want to give a shot if I ever have the opportunity.
Yeah, it's
I was gonna say, like you were mentioning right at the start, that like board games, one of the biggest hurdles you have to get over is the physical component. Is there like an official version or anything like that on Tabletop Simulator?
There's I don't know if it's officially sanctioned or not, but there's a very, very good scripted TTS mod. That's how we played it. I played it with friends, and then I bought it based on really liking that.
Yeah, that's how I try a lot of games.
And it's like I said, it's scripted and everything, so it'll handle setup. But there were some bugs with the scoring. It was kind of funny because I scored like 62 points, and one friend scored 60 points, and another friend scored like 74 points, and we were like, "How did you score 74 points?" And it had turned out that instead of just counting the points in his play area like it was supposed to, it pulled in all of the cards from one of the decks. Nice. So he had like 23 points more than he was supposed to have. So double check your scoring if you try that app out, but that mod out, but it works well otherwise. And it's a fine game to play on TTS because it's not fiddly enough to be a problem to play it there.
Very cool. That's not something that I've played, but I have played another game that we've played together. Well, not together, but we both played a lot of Mario.
We did both play
together apart.
Yeah, together apart. We've been playing Mario Golf.
I know a few other people who are playing it and have to get a game going because it's fun.
Yeah, no, it's good. What are your thoughts of it after playing it for a little bit?
So I am most of the way through the story. I don't know if I should call it the story. Most of the way through the adventure mode. The kind of campaign. I'm on the second to last like region. The like rainy woods or whatever. And the adventure mode is interesting. I think the core golf in that game is a lot of fun, and it's nice because it's like very different from Hot Shots or Everybody's Golf, so you can kind of play both, I think, and get enjoyment out of them. I've been playing that Clap Hands Golf too on my phone, which is very good. And it's just a different flavor. And Mario Golf has pretty good mechanics. I saw some people saying it's too simple, and I don't know if I agree. I think there's that some of the courses are actually pretty tough.
Yeah, and I feel like it kind of forces you to interact with more of the systems, especially with some of the things in the adventure mode, where I was like, this is really hard. And then I started interacting more with like curving my shots and doing this various spins. And I find the shot curving a little bit frustrating because the window is so small that you get to set up the curves. So I don't love that about it, but it's not that bad. What I will say is I love it in the adventure mode when you get to, it's like a wonderful treat when it's just like, just play golf now. Just don't worry about all the extra modes, just play golf, because I thought I would be really into things like the cross country golf and the speed golf stuff. And I think speed golf could still be fun multiplayer, but I'm not sure I love it as much as I was hoping I would.
It seems like a lot of running from what I saw.
It is. Yeah.
And it doesn't feel like there's actually that much interesting stuff you can do. You can troll people really hard, which is fun when it's like your friends, not as fun when it's like computer boo. And I'm just like, just get the fuck out of my way. We both know I'm going to win.
Yeah.
And it's not like it's like horrible or anything. I don't want to like it's I wouldn't even necessarily say it's like mediocre. I think some people might like it more. But I think it like flirts sometimes with including a little bit of platforming in there, for example. And
it does, but it doesn't go all the way.
No, and it's not very good when it does.
No.
And so some of that stuff just doesn't work quite like I was hoping it would. And I don't like the scoring metric. They use like your time spent running, and then each stroke is like 30 seconds.
Yeah.
And I like the scoring of like how far are you under or over par for the course. I think that's like the like real golf scoring is what I like. I think the cross country golf is really interesting conceptually, and I don't know if there's more courses than just the one.
Yeah, I don't know, but it was interesting to try, like, to get a feel for that, especially with when you had to do a lot of the verticality of it.
And that's the part I didn't like.
I don't know if I loved it, but I felt really satisfied once I got it.
Sure. I felt satisfied once I got it because I was like, fuck this. I'm never coming back here again. But in the cross country golf, if you haven't seen, it's like they'll present you like a big map, really big, with like 6 holes on it, and you can tackle them in any order. And you just have to do the whole course in like under 30 strokes or something. And each time you finish a hole, you start from the flag of that, like where the hole was. The hole goes away and they put your ball on the tee there. So it's really, I think if the courses were flatter, I would be really into it. The problem is that they make like these cliff faces between the course, the holes, and you have to use these tornadoes to get the ball up the cliff face. And so the thing that I kept running into and what frustrated me about it is I would get to like I would get like halfway through it, and then I'd go, oh fuck, I have to go all the way up to the top now because I'm all the way at the bottom.
Yeah.
And like, oh, and this hole is like right next to the cliff. So my options are try to curve a shot into a tornado and bounce it up there, or try to take the ball, put the ball in just the right spot so that I can take an additional stroke to just shoot it up there. And then what would inevitably happen, and what happened to me like 4 times, is I would try either one of those things, and the ball would take a bad bounce once it got up there and deflect back off.
Oh, that was the worst.
And then land and then roll into the cliff, the crevice of the cliff, like right at the edge. And then I would be like, the cliff is here and the ball is like right here. And now I'm like, well, now I have to take 4 strokes to set up another shot at the cliff. And it was just like, and then I would just restart the whole thing.
Yeah.
And that I found deeply frustrating and actually almost caused me to say, fuck this. I'm just going to play this multiplayer, but I did get past it. And I can say if you encounter that and have a similar situation with it, you don't have to do that again. You do it the one time, and once you beat it, the full, I mean, you have to play that course a few times, but once you get done with that region, it gets a lot less frustrating. And the rest of it's more fun.
Have any of you tried the battle golf?
Not yet.
No, not yet.
It's not been presented in this. One thing that's really weird about the story is the 3DS one, which wasn't super to my taste, but a lot of people liked it, and I get why. You were like, hey, I'm Mario and I'm going to teach you to play golf. Like, it was very like, as to my memory, it was very much like, oh, Mario and Daisy and stuff are just here, and Bowser's just here. In this game, and I think it's kind of interesting, it opens up with like you watching the main those characters play battle golf, and then the TV turns off, and like I haven't encountered any big Mario character. It's all like Koopa Troopas and Goombas and Toads. I mean, Toad, I guess, is there.
And like Mario is like the legendary, like golfer. Like it's like the main characters are like, wow, these are like super amazing golfers. It feels very familiar from what I've played of the older like handheld Mario golf games and Mario tennis. Like this is pretty much reminiscent of
like
that.
I haven't even seen a Luigi. Like there's no even like you don't even. I don't want to spoil too much for anybody, but bullshit. Someone did say that there were some that they saw. They described some people fucking up a golf course that I instantly recognized based on their descriptions. And so maybe maybe I'm gonna go meet some mainline Mario characters now that I'm like 80% of the way through the adventure mode. But I think it's kind of interesting. It's
some rootin' tootin'.
Some rude characters, we'll say.
Oh, some rude dudes, I see.
Yes, some rude dudes.
Some ass ripping fucking Mr. Eyes motherfuckers.
I wish that there was a way you could fart and have that do something. Maybe Wario could do that. I don't know.
Speaking of farting and doing something, are you all playing it with motion controls, or are you doing?
No.
I'm using the standard.
I've been playing it on handheld.
Controls.
I don't think I'll play it with motion controls.
I've been playing it with a Pro controller on TV. I'll say I actually like the way this game looks. It's super sparse. I've seen people complain about it.
I think it looks fine.
I like the way it looks. It has, I think I've seen people say it's like lacking in charm, which I can see an argument for, because it is very much like all the enemies from Mario, and you're just kind of interacting with it. There's not a lot of like variation in the NPCs and in like the people you're talking to and stuff. Like it doesn't have that, like there's no like New Donk City kind of like charm,
well, also with the adventure mode, I'm pretty much just like, okay, I'm going course to course. Like at the start, I was talking to people, and then I was just like, I don't know if I need to talk to anybody.
Yeah.
So then it's like I'm kind of going from course to course, doing whatever challenges that they have.
And you're playing as a me too. I should clarify that.
Yeah, I've heard that it can be a very chatty game if you start talking to people.
Jesus, it can. I talk to everybody still, and holy shit, some of it's worth it to me, because some of it is kind of one in 10 conversations are like, well, that was kind of funny. I think the writing is fine. It's a little tedious, but it's fine.
Yeah, the writing's fine. Like, it's not bad, but it's just like I was just kind of like, yeah, okay, I don't need to do this anymore.
No, I don't think you need to. But what I appreciate about it is that it is very like, it runs incredibly well. As everyone knows, I'm a frame rate asshole. And it is so solid and so stable. It doesn't have any performance issues, and it
runs beautifully, and
it looks sparse but good. I appreciate that it doesn't have too much going on, but also it looks fine. It doesn't look like it's like, sometimes I run into Switch. When I do play Switch, I don't play as much as I think most people on the cast, but sometimes I run into games, and even like first party Nintendo games, I can't think of any off the top of my head, but where when I play it docked, it's like, oh, this kind of looks like it should be on a handheld. Like this, it doesn't really work blown up onto a TV visually. This game doesn't really have that problem to me. I think it looks good on TV, and it looks good in handheld.
That's cool, because I've been playing it just handheld, and I think it looks really good, but I played the Switch primarily handheld as well. So
yeah. So anyway, I don't know. I think I don't think it's as interesting to me as Mario Tennis. I think Tennis turning into the way that they basically turned it into a fighting game was like really cool and interesting. However, I didn't end up playing that much of it because I'm not good at games like that.
Oh god, so I was really bad at Mario Tennis.
I got to that one boss with the mirrors, and I was like, I don't want to do this. This is too fucking hard for me.
For me, I feel like Mario, like video game golf is the exact amount of chill for me, where like even if I'm like trying to like get past certain things, I just like being able to chill out with some video game golf.
Part of the problem with the speed golfing, because they don't give you much time to chill, because the clock is always ticking. However, you don't have to speed golf all the time, and ultimately I think it's a good time.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Basically, golf is like the turn-based strategy of
sports games. World. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
For sure.
Whereas speed golf is like the action RPG.
It's like real-time strategy.
Yeah. So I'm curious to try the battle mode, and I think that speed golf would be more fun passing a control. Well, you wouldn't be passing a controller around. I guess you could probably play it split screen. I assume that that's an option.
Probably.
It seems like it would be fun split screen with like a few beers and people that are down to like fuck with each other. Like I had a friend in college who we would play Smash and he would get really fucking angry if you didn't always go after the person who was winning, which is not how I play Smash. I go after whoever it would be the most fun to fuck with.
I just like do whatever I think is going to be the most fun, and I go for it.
Let me tell you, the best way to become the person who's the most fun to fuck with is when you're having a meltdown over people not attacking the person you think they should attack. So I don't know if I think Mario Golf would be fun with someone like that, but if you're like just wanting to screw people, because what you can do is when you're sprinting, you can dash, which is just you hold down the run button and your stamina drains and you run faster. If someone's dashing, you can draft behind them, which is very funny given my appreciation for sim.
When they said that you could draft, I was like, oh my God.
That was very funny. Also, you have a special dash where you press the L1 or the shoulder button and you like burn a bunch of stamina at once and you sprint really fast forward. And if you hit people while you're doing that, it fucks them up. It knocks them over and they lose some of their coins like Sonic. And the coins power up your special shot. And if you run into people's balls while you're doing that sprint, you knock them out of the way. So you could theoretically just slam people's balls over and over and over again with this dash and just make their balls go everywhere. And
everywhere.
You can go for their coins and their balls.
Wait, what do you mean their balls go everywhere? Can you?
I'm editorializing a little bit, but if you run into them, it knocks the golf ball out of the way. Yeah, and so, but if you're trying to win, what you should do is just run as fast as you can to your ball and make good shots. But if you had a few beers and you're laughing, what you could do is just try to fuck people's shots up as much as possible and knock their balls into the sand traps and stuff.
So then it just turns into Mario Party.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I think that's like the charm. I mean, the reason that you want to play Mario Golf is that it's, not too serious and that you're just like kind of fucking around.
And I think Battle Golf takes it even further in that like try to screw people over.
From what I've seen of it, yeah.
I think it's going to be a great multiplayer game. I'm having a thing where I want to finish the adventure mode before I start trying to get people to play it multiplayer because I don't know.
Listen, when we're both done with the adventure mode, we're going to play some multiplayer. Golf together.
To me, it seems like if you're approaching Mario Golf as an esport, then you're not approaching it the right way. Like it's just meant for fun.
I don't, and I mean that's how I view a lot of the multiplayer Nintendo games is like
totally.
I just want to play this and kind of fuck around and have some good times, and I appreciate that like for example with Smash you can be really skilled at it, or Splatoon you can be really skilled at it, but for me like the reason I play Nintendo games as much as like I'm tired from work, I want to get a beer and just like fuck around so it's in Mario Golf like.
And I think it's very what's the word I'm looking for? I think there are people that had expectations for this game based on the 3DS game, which I think maybe those people are the ones who are the most disappointed with this game.
Yeah, and I never played the 3DS game, so that's maybe why I'm like, this is a good game. I don't know.
I played the 3DS game for a few hours. I get why people love it. I feel like, and someone is welcome to correct me, but in my memory, I stopped playing that game because I loved Mario Golf on the N64 and like the GameCube. And I stopped playing the 3DS one because it felt like I was spending I played like 3 hours of it and I felt like I played one round of golf in that time because there was so much talking to everybody and the systems were so much more complicated with how you develop your character. It was like very much a role-playing game in a lot of ways. And I get why people wanted that. But the fact that the adventure mode in this game is like, you have like 6 stats and they go up, you get 1 point to spend on them when you level up is like pretty cool to me. And you get like clubs that you don't really need to use, but if you want to, they do weird shit. That's like much more my speed is like, just give me the golf. I don't want to talk to Mario for 10 minutes about like the philosophy of golf. I just want to hit the ball. And so I think that's why I like this game more than the 3DS one. It's not, I think maybe the 3DS one is a more lush, like presentationally, and more has a better story maybe, but I don't give a fuck about that.
I might actually go buy the 3DS one just so that I can see what it would be like.
And also, you can correct me if I'm wrong, because it's been so long since I played it. Maybe I'm way off and I stopped playing it because I was in college and had a lot on my plate. But I seem to recall it being much more of an RPG, not necessarily that much more complicated in terms of character development or clubs and stuff, but more of an RPG in terms of the flow of the game, where you were spending a lot more time talking to people and watching cutscenes and stuff.
But, you know,
which again, a lot of people like having an RPG element, but also I appreciate that this is like, I don't know, you want to play golf, here's some golf. And
I'm playing like, Final Fantasy XIV online. I don't need another RPG.
But yeah. I would totally have a conversation with Mari about the philosophy of golf in like a Mario and Luigi game or a Paper Mario game.
Sure.
Right, exactly.
That'd be weird.
Guess.
Oh, that'd be very funny, where it's like they start talking about golf and you're just like, what the fuck? Okay.
And tennis and the Olympics.
Oh, you know what else I played this week that I didn't put on the sheet, and it's funnier that I didn't put it on the sheet. I played like 2 hours of The Crew 2 this week.
Hell yeah, you did.
And it was a good time.
I don't doubt it. That game seems all right.
I won't get into it, but they continue to improve the handling in that game to make the stuff more fun to control, and they put a shitload more stuff in it, and they don't make any of the...
That seems like the Ubisoft way, is to take something that seems all right and then make it better over the course of a year or two.
Well, and also to cover up allegations of sexual harassment and not actually do anything to solve the problem. But
yeah,
in the case
there's also that.
In the case of The Crew 2, it's fun. I won't go into it at length because I think there's other golf games we have to discuss, so I don't want to ruin the segue. But it just popped into my head that I did
Golden
play that this
Tee.
week.
Yeah, the other one I played a little bit of Clap Hands Golf, and then I also played more Everybody's Golf. I re-downloaded that on my PlayStation 5, and that is a good time as well. I don't know.
I want to finish the adventure mode in Mario Golf before I buy that, but I don't actually own it. I guess I had a physical copy or something at one point, and don't have it now. But it's only like $20, so
it's not very expensive, and it's a good game. I think I need to finish one. I think I do need to finish Mario Golf because they play just enough differently.
Yeah,
that you're like it's very interesting because it's like with all of these golf games, they all have a very similar control style, but they vary just enough that it kind of screws you over,
because Everybody's Golf is a sticks thing. Like you use the sticks to like do your swing, because you do that in...
No, you don't.
Oh, you do in Clap Hands.
Yeah, you do in Clap Hands.
So I was thinking, actually, then yeah, I guess maybe I might just play more Clap Hands then, because I don't know if I like the stick thing. Maybe Everybody's Golf has that in an option.
Maybe it does. I'm just playing it with button.
Gotcha. I think presses. Maybe it's in the options menu, because I remember playing it with sticks. And it's interesting because it's like, if you don't do the stick the right way, it can slice it and stuff.
Oh yeah, the point where you like completely whiff it and you go, oh no, and it goes like dark. The screen is like, no.
Yes.
Yeah, it's like it fully encapsulates how you're feeling with that.
Clap Hands Golf is great because I actually don't like the touch controls. I have to play it with the controller, but it's like a gacha game, but because it's on Apple Arcade, it doesn't have any in-app purchases. Mm-hmm. So you get the characters just from playing the game, like a reasonable amount. And it's very fun because it's all about like team golfing. Yes.
It's a good, I've been playing it a little bit. I haven't played it very much, but I don't have any sort of controller for my phone. So I've just been playing it with, touch controls, and it's not terrible. I think that it's perfectly serviceable with touch controls.
I think if you played it enough with the touch controls, you could get pretty good at it. Because they're very different than the stick controls.
Yeah, but I feel like I was surprised at how serviceable I found the touch controls to be. Like it felt like they were pretty thoughtful for making the touch controls actually not terrible. So I was impressed about that, but
The sticks on the Razer Kishi are the best part of that controller, so it's worked out well that's like the way that you interact with that game. And the characters are entertaining. They're weird, and they all have like unique little like personalities and animations and stuff.
That's the thing that's kind of fun about Everybody's Golf too.
Yeah.
That they just like put a weird amount of personality into all the characters. Like I've been replaying Everybody's Golf, and then you go up against these characters, and there's the kid who's like, I like soccer. I'm learning golf now. I'm not as good. And then he's like, you beat him, and he's like, huh, I guess this is different than soccer. And you're just like, yeah, no shit.
I like in Claphands Golf too. It's great because you beat a boss character, and then it's like, okay, well, I guess now I'm on your team, and then you can play as them in future rounds. And they make it also very mobile friendly because it's like you play 3 holes at a time.
Right. Yeah.
So
that was a fun thing too, because I've played certain like Apple Arcade games and games on my phone where I'm like, it seems like this is a perfectly fine video game, but I don't want to play a game like this on my phone.
Yeah.
Whereas this feels like they really were pretty thoughtful for making a game. This is a mobile game.
I think you can set up larger games if you want to too. I don't think you're limited to only doing 3 holes at a time, but that's like how you progress.
But it's like kind of the default, like, and what they start you out with.
Yeah, it's good. Yeah.
Now I'm like vaguely considering, should I buy a controller for my phone? So that's where I'm at with my life.
The only issue is that I don't know about the backbone, but the Kishi, you have to pay an Apple tax. If you have an iPhone, it's more. It's like $20 more, which is
I know. I do have an iPhone, and it does look more expensive.
It's because it's the exact same controller. They just pass the cost of licensing it as like an officially licensed Apple product onto you, and that's more expensive from Apple. So,
yay.
I wish these controllers make me wish I was like a YouTube influencer, because then they would just send me a backbone for free and I could try it and see which one I like more. I don't want to buy another controller, but it's a cool looking, looks like a good controller. It's also $100. So I'm certainly not going to buy $200 in phone controllers, but you do get 3 months of Game Pass with it though.
Oh yeah, I saw that. Huh.
Which, by the way, works disgustingly well on phones.
I love the disgustingly well.
Oh, it's fucking wild. That thing, the xCloud is gonna like that service is gonna be so huge in developing markets. It looks good. I've heard people say it's better than the Kishi. If I were to tell someone to buy one, I would say the backbone is probably the one I would get at this point. But the Kishi's fine too. If you see like a deal on one, it's good. But that xCloud stuff works way too fucking well.
That always seemed like the most appealing part of their stuff. Yeah,
and I'm using an iPhone. It's not even a native app. It's running in Safari on HTML5, and it works really well. And it like works really well with your controller plugged in. You can navigate the interface with a controller on your phone, and then you hit the button and go, and it's crazy. I'm surprised. I still don't think you'd want to play like Street Fighter on it or something. There's enough. League. Yeah, no, there's enough latency for it to be noticeable. But what I've been using it for here and there, conceptually more than actually, because I haven't really had time, but like I'm excited to play Scarlet Nexus. I have a copy of that on the way.
I'm excited to play that too eventually.
Yeah, theoretically. Sony Reward Store is weird, but I'm excited to play that game. I didn't realize at first that it was the same team that made Code Vein, which is another game that I've always been interested in checking out because I like Souls games.
So does it have like a really intense character creator then?
No, it has Scarlet Nexus has 2 characters you pick between that are like pre-made. It's a different kind of game than Code Vein. But anyway, I was like, I could install Code Vein. I could clear some space and install it and try it. But I know I'm only going to play it for like 10 minutes. So instead I just loaded it up on xCloud and played it for like 10 minutes. I was like, this is cool. Maybe I'll play this at some point. I'm not going to start it right now because I have Scarlet Nexus coming and I want to play that more. And I have plenty of other games I'm playing, but being able to like sample games is really nice. Being able to access games through the phone that maybe you do like check-ins or like you could totally do some Destiny stuff if you're a Destiny player using xCloud. It runs perfectly fine enough for that kind of thing. And I think it'll be really cool to have on like trips and stuff also. So yeah, if you have the ability to get a trial, or if you already have Game Pass Ultimate, I recommend giving it a quick look because it's cool.
Cool.
Yeah, okay. So the other thing that I've played, my only excuse is that I've had a really hard couple weeks, not for bad reasons, just because I'm finally fully leaving training at work and I'm just exhausted all the time because it's busy. So I've been playing Power Wash Simulator a lot.
That looks great.
It's very fun. It's very relaxing if you like put something on to listen to while you're like washing this house and you go, and then at the end of a thing, it shows you the like speed through of you washing this thing. And you're like, man, I did a good job with that washer. Nicely done, me.
Power washers are magical in real life. So I can imagine
they're extremely magical
in
in this. Yeah, no, I saw people talk about how relaxing it was, and I was like, okay, I need that. So then I bought it, and yeah, it's a relaxing time. So
I need to pick it up because I like House Flipper conceptually, but I hate the way House Flipper looks. It's so grody.
It is really grody, and like here things are grody, but like in a I feel like a better way than House Flipper. I like it better than I think it takes the concept of House Flipper and kind of is like, let's just have the most satisfying part of it, which is just like cleaning it, but you're just kind of washing
and there's
grime off of a thing.
This is really weird. So, and I know it's really weird, but when I play House Flipper, I get that like, oh, I'm like, my character's like getting on their hands and knees, scrubbing this floor, and it's icky and gross. Whereas Power Wash Simulator, it's like, no, I'm standing 4 feet away from this stuff. I'm great. I'm covered in water and soap. I'm clean as a whistle and feel good. And it's like nice to be in this cool water in the hot sun outside, and I'm blasting this muck.
Yeah, away, and I put an extension thing on there so I can go further, and I'm standing far away going, woo, and it's yeah.
Have you ever played Viscera Cleanup Detail?
I sure have.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think we've talked about it, but like it seems similar to that in a lot of ways, but obviously less.
This feels less frustrating.
Sci-fi gory.
Yeah, and I feel like I like Viscera Cleanup Detail just to like conceptually and occasionally just to mess around with it, but it is also like a slower game and kind of a frustrating game too, where you're like going around and then you drop your bucket and you're like, oh my god. Whereas here it's just like, nope, once something's clean, it's clean, you're good. Okay. It's like it's taking that kind of simulator kind of thing and just squishing it down into, okay, what's the most satisfying way of going about it? Okay. And you finish this thing, cool, you have money to buy more stuff and then go do another job. And it's
goes some weird places from what I've seen too.
What, Power Wash Simulator?
I'm interested to see where it goes then.
Yeah. Right. I saw somebody washing off a Mars rover. Looked like on the surface of Mars.
I think I'm in the middle of working on a playground, so we'll see how that. I'll see where I get to that, but.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna pick it up too, and just.
And it's just like something
it's
where
on the Steam page, the Mars thing.
Oh yeah, where last weekend I was just like, oh, I'm just tired, and I just want to relax and listen to something, and it's a perfect game for putting on a podcast, and you want to just do something while you're listening to a podcast and relaxing. So
and it seems like it is literally like on their Steam page, they talk about how like it is a game designed as a stress relief tool. Yeah. Like that is explicitly the purpose of the game, which I think is really a cool thing.
Yeah.
And then you look, it's just it's designed to be just a satisfying experience where you're like, man, I took this house that's this garbage house and look at how beautiful it is. Look at how good I made this thing. And I don't know. It's just very satisfying.
It's got just enough of a style that it's kind of like, it's a little different than House Flipper, where House Flipper is like the style is Unity Asset Store, which I'm not picking on them. Like I get it. They're doing a lot with what with a little, but this Power Wash Simulator feels like it's still not like, you know, incredible visually or anything, but the stuff is a little more chunky, feels a little more like you're playing with like a play set or something.
That's what it feels like. And I think that was my biggest issue with House Flipper, is that it got, I mean, like I don't disagree with the whole Unity Store kind of vibe of it, but also it got a little too real for me at points where you're just like, man, I don't want to like deal with bugs in this house.
Yeah.
I don't know. That's not
like,
fun.
oh, I picked up this pizza box and roaches crawled everywhere.
Exactly. And you're like, it's just gross.
Yeah.
Whereas here, it's like, it feels like the most, the gunk that you can recognize the most is like bird poop. Otherwise, it's just like, I don't know, this car got real dirty. It's just generically dirty.
Yeah.
And you clean it off. So it's kind of like, it doesn't have that same level of just like, oh, I feel gross kind of doing this.
Yeah.
Like with some of the House Flipper cleaning stuff. Here, it's just kind of like, hey, this house is covered with gunk. Is this unrealistic? Yeah. Okay, bye. Like, let's just clean it up. So, yeah. It's like cartoony enough that it makes you feel like less gross about everything.
Yep.
So, yeah, no, I might go play this after we've been talking about it.
I'm currently downloading it because it seems like a really great cooldown game when I'm done doing racing stuff.
Yeah. It's like I said, stressful. I had a busy week and I was tired last weekend, and I was just like, I just need to like chill out with something. And
I know my partner and I were both. I had the Nextlander stream up when Brad was playing it. My partner and I both just we started looking at it and then like lost time because we were just watching Brad power wash a van, and it was very satisfying to watch there. So yeah.
Well, all right. If that's I think
Allison, I also would recommend Teardown to you.
Oh yeah.
If you're looking for a
totally
nice stress relief game, because that game is not as relaxing as Power Wash Simulator, but close. It's pretty relaxing.
It's really cool.
It's more of a puzzle, but it's not
cool.
it's not as, you look at it and go like, oh, this looks like it's super challenging. It's much more of a puzzle. It's not super frustrating or like hard.
cool.
It's much more sandboxy.
Yes, it's cool. I think you would like it.
Yeah, no, I'll definitely check that out, because I mean, I don't know, like there's a lot of games I want to play, but I know that I'm not in a headspace to just dive into some of these more intense games. Like, I mean, that's partially why I haven't bought Scarlet Nexus yet, because I'm like, I want to enjoy that story. I need to get further with work.
Yeah.
So that I can just like chill out.
I know exactly how you feel, because
yeah.
I was like kind of like dragging myself across the finish line to get to this vacation time. I was just very much like, not even because I'm overworked, just because like I know that you've experienced some like heavy load, Alex, recently. It's less that, it's more just the work that I'm doing is so exhausting. It's like very draining.
Yeah, I think that's the thing, is that I'm not overworked. Like I'm actually like, with my current job right now, I'm actually working a lot. I haven't worked overtime yet, which has been really nice. But it's just mentally straining, where I get done with the day and I'm like, I don't want to think hard for a little bit. So yeah, so it's just like I'm at that point where I'm like, I'm playing golf games, I'm playing mobile rhythm gacha games that I'm still spending way too much time on, and then also these chill kind of experiences. So I'll definitely check out Teardown, though. I'm looking at it now on Steam, and it looks good.
Yeah, the flow is very much like you case a joint and look at all the different ways you're going to fuck it up.
And then you fuck it up.
And that's the part that's a little more actiony, is like, because you're on a timer once you start fucking it up. But you have so much time to look around it and like figure out how you're going to deal with it first, that it's kind of got some Hitman vibes in that way, but in a more puzzle solving way and in a more sandboxy way. And when you do come up with a fun solution that's like not the obvious one, it's like, oh man, that's good.
That is a good satisfying thing when you figure out a solution that's not like the one that they say this is the basic
it's
solution.
So non-linear in the way that you can solve problems that you do that constantly, where it's like, oh, I could drive the cars they've clearly laid out for me through the wall to get to the safe, but there's also a boat over here, and I can kind of position this side of the building to be a ramp if I blow it off in just the right way, and then I can use the boat to send it flying through the building, and it's fun.
That also just reminds me of Totally Reliable Delivery Service, but in a different way.
I'd like to play that with people.
I'd like to play that too, but I need somebody to play it with. But yeah. Oh, and I just thought of the news. All right.
I just thought of the news.
I just remembered, speaking of buying games, I have pre-ordered the Danganronpa
Hell yeah.
Collector's Edition, so I'm excited about that whenever I get that.
When does that come out? Is that July? Or is it September?
I don't know. Is there a release date?
August? I thought it was supposed to be a little later, but...
Because it's still listed as...
they listed as December 31st, so that means it doesn't have a real release date.
I thought I remember them saying later summer, but I could be wrong.
Well, they may have, but they haven't officially dated. That's just Amazon, what Amazon's placeholder did.
Yeah.
I'm excited for those to come to Switch. That's where I'm going to finally try to get through them. There's a real piece of the reason why I haven't played those games is that I feel like I don't want to subject my partner to having them on a big screen. If she's not interested in watching like high schoolers get murdered in really graphic and uncomfortable ways. Because some of those kill scenes made me a little like, ugh. And so having it on a handheld where I can just sort of put some headphones on and lay on the couches sounds like a good way to play it.
So you can enjoy your murders in private.
Yeah. Just relax, sit back on the couch with your handheld Switch and enjoy some murder video games.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So the news though, Ghost of Tsushima is getting a PS5 version with a whole expansion. Ooh. Yeah.
Sounds like people are psyched on that.
Yeah. I liked what I played of Ghost of Tsushima, but I didn't really play that much of it, to be honest.
I think it was
a fine game.
It's not, I don't know. It's good. I got bored with it.
Oh, me too.
Pretty aggressively.
I played parts of it and I was just kind of like, I'm good, really, honestly.
And I didn't think the story was anything to write home about.
I mean, it wasn't, but.
And to me, it's like, that's the thing. And I understand this is all subjective. A lot of people think the stories in Assassin's Creed games suck. I like them because I like the like weird modern day bullshit and seeing how all of that interacts. My cat is aggressively on my lap now. So that's why, like, even when the gameplay in Assassin's Creed games start to get repetitive, I'm like, oh, well, at least I get to interact with these cool characters from history that I like and stuff. And Ghost of Tsushima is certainly set in a very interesting place and period and stuff, but the characters are not, to me, particularly. They're all just like different shades of, I'm angry about this. I'm angry because my dad was murdered. I'm angry because my brother was murdered. I'm angry because my husband was murdered. It's just like, yeah, I
Mad
get it.
because
We're all
small.
mad people. So anyway, however, I do like to sit and look at very pretty things that my PlayStation 5 outputs. So I will definitely play the PS5 version, assuming you get an upgrade to it.
Yeah, I think you have to pay for the upgrade, if I remember.
Depends on the price. I would pay like,
I think it's like
probably-
$20.
yeah, I'd pay like 20, 30 bucks, I think, for an upgrade.
Does the PlayStation 5 have a camera accessory?
It does.
Oh, then you should put
Oh, I
that
didn't
on.
know
Then
that.
then you would see the prettiest thing.
Oh.
It's very sweet of you to say, but I
yeah,
have to look at myself all
feel
the
it.
time. So
Ghost of Tsushima, I know Andre was really not into it though. Like, it
Yeah,
seems like
I think-
people are either very hot or like kind of cool on it.
like, I get the Days Gone thing, that critics were cool on Days Gone, but fans were into it because that game is interesting in a lot of ways that I am, and I still want to play it because it's not all good, but it's at least got a lot of interesting stuff going on. Tsushima to me was just so stock standard. It's like people sometimes talk about how, oh, you know, Assassin's Creed needs to drop the RPG part and get back to what it was. And I'm like
Stealth
the
game.
opposite, because I think they wrung everything you could bring out of that open world stealth game.
I think they
thing.
also hit. I feel like if they wanted to do that, they'd have to do something that was better than like Syndicate,
which would be very hard.
Would be hard because Syndicate rips.
It's really good,
So-
and it's kind of the culmination of
Right.
decades of them making that game. And so I think moving to RPG, more witchery stuff is like the perfect thing. I think they need to do something else before too long, but
Right, but I think that it's no, I don't disagree.
and I feel like Ghost of Tsushima is a good riff on the Syndicate style of game, but it's also not anything particularly new. And so I don't know that I would be swayed to finish it, but I'll definitely buy the upgrade because I also want to try that co-op. The co-op thing sounds really fun. That's like, it's like you get like loot and stuff and grind up a character level and stuff in the co-op. And the thing about Tsushima that is good is the combat's good. That's what I would say, is the combat was the thing about it that felt kind of unique and actually entertaining. It's frustrating because I didn't love the stealth parts leading up to the combat. And you spend more time in stealth, obviously, because you're setting all this stuff up. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see how the visual update looks on PS5, because I bet it'll be pretty. If they do like a performance ray tracing mode, kind of like the Insomniac stuff in that game, oh boy,
Be very
it
pretty.
could be sick.
The next news item, which I'm going to read exactly in the style of that's in our notes here. Housemarque is now a house studio for Andrew House. Very good,
Yes.
Alex. Yeah, but Sony is now acquired Housemarque, who did Returnal, and
I was surprised they weren't a Sony studio.
Yeah, they're like second party.
Yeah, because like,
where they're basically
they did,
like
Resogun and stuff too, right?
yes.
Yeah. And other like Super Stardust, is that them?
Yep. They did that Defender. Well, that was Resogun. Yeah. And then they did a top-down shooter.
Next Machina? Is that the top down?
Yes.
No.
Yes, I think it was. Yep.
I know that
Next
was them,
Machina.
Yeah.
believe that.
It's just not surprising. Wasn't there also like
especially since Returnal is PS5 exclusive, so it feels like it's not like oh, no, like they're already developing for PlayStation primarily.
And wasn't there also some like leaked document rumor thing coming out about Bluepoint? I thought I saw that this week too. Like
sounds like it could be
an accidentally leaked document saying like, "Oh, Bluepoint is also now being acquired by Sony," which also would be the least surprising thing ever.
Yeah, I agree.
Cool. So I'm also going to read this next one exactly as in our news document. The Whackin is getting its own Pokemon style game, Go style game, and that's Witcher. I'm sorry, I had to do it, but
That's fine.
I think that could be fun. I like Pokemon Go theoretically, but I'm not invested enough in Pokemon to like actually actively play it and like seek out playing it. So I am like pretty into The Witcher as a setting and a thing. So I could see it driving some fun hikes to like, hey, let's go slay some others. It's my partner's favorite game series, so like we'll definitely enjoy it, I think.
Did you ever get into Ingress?
Yeah, Ingress is weird. Ingress was too much. I get the impression that this Witcher Monster Slayer thing is going to be Pokemon Go, but you kill monsters instead of catch them, and that's it. Right. Ingress is right. Like the PvP aspect of Ingress is
weird,
too strange. Like
it was people literally like camping out and like cutting people's power kind of style.
And people camping. I bounced when my team's like message board, someone was like, we need someone to camp this dorm to see when people are leaving in the middle of the night to let everybody know that they're going to go take the site. And I was like, I am not stalking people for a video game. No, thank you. That is
that's like some EVE Online shit.
Yeah. And it was probably because it was a college town. So it was like more people did not have the best judgment, but like, I was like, I'm not going to fucking sit in the bushes and message people when I see some kids leaving their dorm. That's weird.
Yeah. So The Witcher is probably not going to be that.
Oh, I don't think it'll be that creepy.
No. Wasn't there another one of these kinds of Pokemon style games that people were?
There was like a Harry Potter one, but
oh right.
It's too bad because the Harry Potter one was actually pretty interesting, but it came out like literally as all of the Rowling stuff was really coming to
I never played it because
I tried it, and then all that stuff was happening, and I was like, "Fuck this!" I feel gross about engaging with this. But it actually had kind of cool mechanical stuff going on that was, in some ways, more interesting than Pokemon Go to me.
Yeah, no, it looked like an interesting game. I just didn't want to play it.
Yeah. But the other issue with Harry Potter conceptually, Pokemon Go works so well because it's like, you're going on a hike in the woods where you would find Pokemon if you were in Pokemon, and then there's Pokemon there. The Harry Potter thing was weird because it was like, go to the 7-Eleven across the street and that's a classroom for you to do a class. And it's like, I don't know. That's doesn't quite fit as well. Whereas The Witcher could totally work in that same Pokemon way of like, you need to go out into the woods and find monsters.
Is the Witcher one being made by Niantic?
I don't know. I hope so. I believe the Harry Potter one was.
It was for sure. I don't see who's
no, CD Projekt is making the Witcher one, which, you know, mixed bag of they're good at making Witcher games.
Have they ever made
no, maybe not. Maybe not. Never mind. This says The Witcher. I'm looking at the base. I searched Witcher Monster Slayer, and what came up was The Witcher, the first Witcher one. So maybe they're not making this.
Because I was going to say, if it's CD Projekt Red, I would actually be a little worried about that, because like network connected stuff is pretty complicated. So if they've never done one,
I don't know.
But I don't know who's making it. I don't think it's Niantic though, because nowhere I see are people talking about that.
Yeah, weird. They're probably making it, and probably, I mean, they have a shitload of money, so they're probably making it and consulting with people and hiring people to do the network stuff if they are making it.
Cool. Open an article and just a horse's decapitated head is the hero image.
Fuck yeah.
That seems like The Witcher.
You're bearing the lead here. The headline is, if it's the PC Gamer article, is The Witcher Monster Slayer is like Pokemon Go, but you might find a decapitated horse in the park.
Yes, that is correct.
Not wrong.
Register for the game. It's made by Spoko SPZOO. But like Z.O.O or Z.O.O. So I don't know what that studio is. And it seems like the only game they've made, at least on the Play Store. So
I also enjoy the sign off, which is it's on Google Play. It'll be on iOS too, and somebody will definitely get it running on PC with fake GPS coordinates, making everyone who's legitimately walking around the parking garages looking for Strigas angry.
accurate.
Yes.
Yeah, that's not wrong. All right. Next up, AI, the Somnium Files, nirvanA Institute has been announced. So the sequel to AI, the Somnium Files.
Yes. That trailer was so good. Did you watch it?
No, because I haven't finished the first one and I don't want to be spoiled.
Oh, you should watch that trailer just to
Okay,
see.
I wouldn't be spoiled.
No, well,
Or I mean, like, if
no.
I'd be okay with it was just mildly.
no, it's like one scene. Well, it might be a light spoiler. But,
I mean, mild is fine. Light spoiler is okay.
Just watch like the first 15 seconds, like, and don't go any further than that, and you'll understand exactly why I'm wanting you to watch it. So
Okay.
let's do it live. Do it now.
Okay, first 15 seconds. Okay, AI, the Somnium Files.
It looks. I'm so glad that game is getting a sequel. It wholly deserves it.
Okay.
Doing a live reaction.
Okay. Hey, wait.
Yep.
Let me play that game on Switch, please.
Yeah. Yep. So
Oh.
it starts with that character playing 999 on a Switch, basically.
Let me play that on Switch. But also, I'm excited for this. I still haven't finished the first one, which I'm going to go do soon but I've also pre-ordered the collector's edition.
Oh, is the pre-order available?
Yeah.
Oh,
And
shit.
it comes with a full figure of Iba.
Of Iba. Yeah, I didn't realize it was up. I might do that too.
Yeah, because I was like, listen, I don't know if this will, I'm sure that I liked what I've played of it so far, and I'm sure that I'll love it because I love Uchikoshi, and then also, but it's also a figure made by Good Smile, who does Nendroids and Figma, and I think this is from like their
good.
pop-up parade line, which is like kind of more budget, but they're still really, really nicely made figures.
Yeah,
so
they're still custom made.
Yeah, and they're still really beautiful figures. So I'm like, that's actually like not a bad pre-order bonus, or not pre-order, collector's edition item. So I'm like, oh, I need to get that. So
yeah, that game is really excellent. If people haven't played it, they should, because it's like the most unique game that's come out in a long time, especially when you look at just stories and stuff that it's doing. So
that's definitely rad, and I'm very happy it's getting a sequel.
Me too.
And that means that it did well enough that they could do a sequel, and I'm just jazzed that Uchikoshi gets to do what he wants.
Yeah, totally.
Especially since I know that they had to fight to finish Zero Escape, because it basically the sales were only good overseas for that, apparently, like for 999 and the rest of the series. So I'm like, oh, I'm just like happy that he's doing well, because he's doing unique, interesting things within video games and visual novel type space. So I'm just jazzed about that. So I will definitely finish that this year, so that next year when the sequel comes out, I'll be hyped for it.
Sick. I'm looking forward to hearing your thoughts, because
next person who's making video games. Oh my god, I need to be better at these transitions, but
It's fine.
Kojima is making an Xbox game.
Yeah, and people got pissed.
I don't know, man. People need to chill out, I guess.
Yes.
But just in general.
I very briefly was like, okay, because of some inflection in Keely's voice at one point. I was like, okay, maybe this whole blue box thing is a real thing. Like, I wasn't in a place where I was ready to tweet about it, but I was like, yeah, sure. I talked a little bit about it in our chat. And then the fact that like they really shut the door on it, and then people were still being obnoxious is like, come on. like
let's just chill for 5 minutes.
And also let's normalize, like, when you say stuff on Twitter and you have people that actually care about what you have to say, regardless of like the size of your platform. If you're like, I'm going hard on this blue box conspiracy theory, it's real. When it turns out it's not, maybe say, hey, I was wrong. Everyone, not weird. It turns out it's not real.
Is that possible?
Yeah, like,
no.
Let's normalize like being like, hey, I was wrong about this thing, because the problem is you just kind of like stir people up more when you're like, when you go hard on something and then later are like, well, it wasn't that, and without like kind of stopping and going like, oh yeah, I guess we were wrong about that. That's all it takes. Because otherwise you just continue to kind of create this like frenzy of like, well, maybe it's still real though. They're not saying it's not. They're just not saying it's not. They're not saying it's necessarily true anymore, but they're not saying it's not true. And it's just ridiculous.
The internet, ladies and gentlemen.
The internet.
It's ridiculous.
And apparently PlayStation is hard to work with. And I added the note, and water is wet, because I'm not exactly shocked.
Yeah.
Yeah, this was an interesting one. The way it came about. Did you see the whole thing where the person, I forget who it was now, that did the tweet of like, company X is hard to work with, and then was like giving very explicit details about what it's like to work with company X?
Mm-hmm. Oh, I didn't see that, but
yeah, they were giving details on like how it works in terms of what games get promoted and floated to the top of the store, and how if you are an indie game or whatever and you want your game promoted, like you have to pay Sony like $20,000 to have it show up any higher than just like in their new releases thing for like a day.
I think it's interesting that this is not the case apparently with like Microsoft. I mean, I guess if they're like, as someone who works for a storefront, we don't charge brands to be on the storefront front page, but you absolutely have to like, we're not just going to put your shit there because we think it's cool. It is a business. Like, I think it's,
yeah.
I'm not defending Sony's behavior because it sounds like they're very difficult to work with, but it's more like, I'm not at all surprised. And what I'm surprised at is that someone else was surprised at it being them being so shitty to work with, because I would assume that the only place that doesn't kind of treat you like shit if you're an indie would be like Itch. I would assume pretty much every other storefront is bad for you, because they're looking to make all they care about is making money.
Yeah, I found the thread. Sorry, they called it Platform X, not Company X. I can make sure to link it in the document, and I'll link it in our chat. But yeah, it talks about how Platform X gives developers no ability to manage their games. Like, if you do want any form of promotion, you have to basically beg them and like jump through a billion hoops. And other people were saying that working with Sony versus working with Microsoft versus working with Nintendo, like Sony was making up maybe 5% of their total sales and stuff like that, but it was taking up like 100% of their time because they were just so chaotic and bad to work with. There, I've shared some links in our chat that you can check out if you want some more context, but I'll make sure that both of what I'm looking at are in our document or in our show notes. Oh, those are actually the exact same link. Sorry. Give me one second.
And from what I've seen people report about, where it's like, hey, it's, Sony is not great for selling indies, but then also it's a lot more difficult to deal with than Microsoft or Nintendo or Steam or anything. But
Yeah, they're very interesting reads, and I think especially if you are doing any form of development, it's worth knowing because like
I
this is
mean,
kind of the behind the closed doors kind of stuff.
as I mean, the reason I said water is wet is because like you see indie developers like watching the Wholesome Direct, and all of them were universally like, it's going to be on PC for sure,
Nintendo,
maybe Xbox, and maybe Switch, and like see if anything was listed as being on PlayStation, then that was a surprise because that was just relatively unusual, and it's like I don't know, it's. I don't want to have to buy an Xbox, but at the same time, it's like, yeah, I don't know. It just does not seem like Sony cares that much about making PlayStation a viable indie thing, which is
weird. And
frustrating.
I think we've talked about this a couple times over the past couple years at this point, where Sony seemed like they were, catering and like trying to get the indies on board for a long time.
Yeah.
But just over the past couple of years, it feels like Sony's kind of been losing touch with,
I think the problem from a business perspective, and I think it's bullshit, but from a business perspective, the problem with it is they have to there are so many indie games, and so it would take them a lot of time and probably need an entire team of people to actually figure out which ones are good and then promote those specifically, rather than just like promote, like roll the dice and hope that something's going to hit.
Yeah, I mean, I think that there is an element of difficulty in managing indies, and I can see a platform holder just not wanting to bother because there's just so many, and there's so it's like it's got to be such a
very crowded market.
It is, and it's not necessarily to make an excuse, but it's like it is a very crowded market and a very difficult market. I'd imagine to deal with.
It's hard to find the like it's easy to roll the dice on Supergiant,
right. But there's certain indie developers, but then you're getting to the point where that's specific indie developers are getting that priority. And if you're a new developer, you don't, but at the same time you get it because also it's just hard.
One thing that I do wonder, and I don't know, so I'm not making an assumption here really, is like that Twitter thread from that one developer who said it was really hard to work with them. I do wonder how much of that, I don't know what their game was or what the size of their team was or anything, but I do wonder how much of that is maybe people just didn't, the people they were working with at Sony were like, this game's not going to do very well. We're not really into it. So we're not going to give them the treatment that we would give a team that we were excited about their thing.
Oh yeah. But there was a lot of developers that chimed in echoing it. Like I think even,
there's so many developers though,
Yeah, but like I think even Rami was chiming in saying like, yep, this is all 100% true from our experience. And just things like big, like names you would recognize chiming in and being like, yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
So like, it sucks.
Yeah, I guess I just don't know. To me, like itch is the way. I've struggled to articulate this because I don't want to come off as like indie games aren't deserving of something, because that's ridiculous and not what I think at all. But sort of to Allison's point, there's like thousands of indie games coming out, and how do you treat all of them, give them all equal airtime, and treat them all equally when there's just not enough time in the day? You can't have 1,000 front page store slots. Sony's doing it wrong, to be clear. Like they're doing it
right.
Worse than
they're doing it wrong,
should.
But it's definitely.
But it's an
not
interesting problem to solve.
It's definitely it's not like, oh, they're clearly doing this wrong, and here's the easy solution for storefronts, because it's like it's not like the
Well, like Steam does it well.
Like Steam is great, like as a storefront, or Switch.
Mostly
is
algorithmic on Steam.
Yeah,
Steam fucking sucks for new releases.
Yeah,
though.
So it's like on the one hand, I understand. I don't think they're doing well, but at the same PlayStation, but at the same time, it is definitely a problem of okay, we have I don't know.
It's a challenge to figure out how to make it work for everybody in a way that's supportive of different projects. And I do wonder, as someone who's not a developer, I mean, everybody wants each other to do well, but I do wonder if like it would be hard, how it would feel to be like, well, we've got this 10-person team. We work really hard on this game. And then like through something a little more equitable, like your game doesn't get a slot because of Five Nights at Freddy's or something, like also an indie game that maybe doesn't have the same degree of like charm or care put into it in terms of like art design and stuff as your game. And then you have to like watch your slot evaporate to that. And like the solution isn't just to charge people for them, because then only the people who have money get representation. But I don't know. It's such a weird.
It's hard.
Yeah.
I don't know if there's an easy solution.
There definitely isn't.
Other than having manpower, like having people curate and take the time to look at stuff. But,
which is I think the ideal situation, but at the same time, it's like that's an expensive one. And
also the way that I curate a list of 100 indie games to feature in a tab on the PlayStation Store is going to be different than the way both of you do it.
Right, like, exactly.
Like I might look at something like my store may be made up of things like Dusk and Proteus and Gloomwood from indies, and that may not actually be fair to, not as an intentional thing, but if I have to make a list of 100 games, it may not be fair to other developers who also are just as valid. And then like, how do you square that circle? And then do you make it a democratic process where you have a team of people with different tastes curating things? Okay, but then you still will run into games that deserve the recognition not getting it because there's not enough room to do it. I think the way that it would the best way to make it work would be you dedicate a section of the store to indie games, and you have someone aggressively watching what games need the boost and moving stuff around there constantly to try to get eyes on stuff. But I don't know if that's really a great solution either. And Sony doesn't give a fuck. The other thing is that Sony doesn't give a fuck. They don't care about you. They don't care about people's games.
Right. They just care about the bottom line.
They only care about money.
Yeah.
There are people at Sony who may care about these things, but Sony as a company only exists to make as much money as possible. There is no purpose for a corporation to exist other than to make money. So any solution we or anyone else could come up with isn't going to work for them unless it makes them more money. And as it stands, it probably makes them more money to charge a shitload for promotional slots. So,
but yeah, I think it's a combination of the fact that is the state of the industry for Sony side of things. You have to pay 20,000, 200,000, etc. to get promoted, but also the fact that Sony is hard to work with. They're not particularly communicative. They're apparently standoffish, a little bit rude, just, like,
yeah.
So it is a combination of, it sucks, the promotion aspect, but also the fact that they just suck. So it's not surprising, but also so it blows.
It sure does. All right, and after 2 years of support and DLC, Nether Realms is moving off of Mortal Kombat 11 and onto a new project. I didn't play Mortal Kombat 11, but did you guys? Do you think that this is pretty much like they've gotten what content they need, or?
Yeah, they did a lot of work on that game. Like it had a ton of post-release support. I mean, NetherRealms is generally pretty good at that, but MK11 in particular has just seen a ton. Constant balance changes, and like character updates and stuff like that. I think the rumor for NetherRealms right now is haven't people been thinking they're going to do a Marvel game of some form?
Maybe.
At least Ed Boon has kind of played that up a little bit.
I wouldn't. Yes, he has played it up. Ed Boon, I
it'd be
think,
cool.
loves to troll.
He does. But like, I think NetherRealm is a studio that I would love to see do a Marvel thing. Like, even as someone who doesn't care about Marvel, like, they would be a fascinating studio for that.
Yeah, no, that'd be interesting.
Yeah. Looking forward to whatever they're doing.
Yeah. All right, next is Control is getting a 4-player player versus enemy PvE game from Remedy. How do we feel about that?
Environment. Yeah. I mean,
I know how you feel about Control, Alex, but
We're very familiar.
we are
but
extremely.
Like, even if I was super into Control, I don't know if that's the ideal way to play that kind of game. Because, like, the interesting thing about that game, I guess, was like, what was the main character's name? Jesse, whatever.
Jesse Fadden, yeah.
Yeah.
Fadden, yeah, like her. It was just kind of like her weird take on the world and just her like nonchalant everything, but like, and like the kind of pseudo horror-y kind of stuff that was going on, and her interacting with that was kind of the, that was part of the atmosphere and the appeal. I don't know if having 4-player co-op benefits it.
So I guess the thing that the thought I had when this came out is I don't get the impression that they're getting pushed, that team is getting pushed to make anything in particular. Like, Remedy seems to kind of have the freedom to make the things they want.
Yeah.
And so I don't think they'd make this unless they had an idea that they thought was interesting. Like, I don't get the impression that it's like a EA situation where it's like, you better fucking put co-op in Mass Effect, because if you don't put co-op in Mass Effect, we can't sell loot boxes. I don't read it that way. It's not that, the co-op in Mass Effect is good, but I read it more as like they must have had some weird idea that they want to try out here. So with that in mind, as a fan of that game, I'm interested to see what it is. It may not be as good, may not be great, but I'm sure, take your shot.
But apparently there's also some other bigger single player Control thing in the works also.
Hopefully when they say that, what they mean is there's another Remedyverse game coming, I hope that what that means is we're making another Avengers movie, like in the sense that they cross the streams enough with Alan Wake that I hope that's represented in the future of the Control series, and that it's more like we're just we have a weird universe where everything interacts.
The last piece of news is we're ending it on a sad note. That the author of some emulators and who's done a lot of really great work, especially from what I know with SNES emulation, has passed away, and it's very much a bummer.
We touched on it a little bit, but I would definitely say go listen to that Waypoint episode, and that there's an angle of this that is very harassment driven, and
component.
That's what it looks like. And
people who do, obviously we know they're scum, but it is if you listen to this podcast and you're somebody who harasses people in this way, I would love it if you would just unsubscribe and fuck off forever. Like,
yep.
I think those people deserve the worst, and it's disgusting that anyone would waste their time treating other people like that. I can't imagine doing that kind of thing to even the kind of people that I deride. And so it's pathetic that's a way that people spend their time. So yeah, it's awful that this stuff happens, and you can help it happen less if you just try to be a force in your communities to stop that kind of harassment and call it out when you see it, and make sure that people know that it's wrong. And it doesn't matter whether you think you don't have an impact or not, just putting that on people is awful. even if you don't think they can see it.
Absolutely. Well, I think that's going to do it for this week's episode of Gaming Fix. Ending on kind of a bummer note, but be kind to each other, please.
Yep.
That's I think if there's anything I want to get out there is just as a person and as a content creator is just be kind to people. So.
And even when you don't like something about, like, I disagree with lots of people and lots of people make me angry. And sometimes I say mean things to people or about people. But when you start to make it about somebody's identity and who they are as a person and not their beliefs or ways in which you might disagree, that's when you need to.
And when it goes from, you know, disagreeing with someone or disliking someone to harassment or bullying, that's when it gets, you know, there are people that have frustrated me. And I mean, it's like, that's part of being human, but you have to, you know, take a step back and everything. So,
there is a significant difference between having a disagreement or not aligning in views and then going out and actively doxing people or like finding ways to affect them in their real everyday lives and their families and things like that. Like that, there is a significant difference there.
Absolutely. All right. So ending on that note, you can find us on Twitter at Fix Podcasts and also at fix.space. Subscribe. I promise that most of our podcasts end on a list on a more cheery note, but I think these are important things to say. Pat, where can people find you?
You can find me at PJC Plays, and next week you can find me not on the podcast because I'm going to be driving around virtual Le Mans for 6 of a 24-hour team drive.
That's still pretty.
My stints are like I drive for 2 hours, somebody else drives for 2 hours, I drive for 2 hours, somebody else drives for 2 hours, and then I drive for 2 more hours again. So it's not even like they're spread out. Like I drive at like 6 a.m. and then at noon and then at 6 p.m. It's like I'm driving at like 10 a.m., 2 p.m. and 4 p.m. or 6 p.m. And it'll also be fun because while it will be daytime in real life, all of my stints are while it's nighttime in the simulation. So I'll be looking at a lot of headlights or tail lights.
If you're looking at headlights,
drive the correct direction.
that seems like there might be a problem.
Although we are driving the slowest class of car, so I'm going to get passed by a lot of cars.
All right, Alex, where can people find you?
You can find me watching the classic 1999 movie The Mummy shortly after this podcast. And then Allison, you should watch Vivi.
Oh my god, I need to watch Vivi. I need to watch Odd Taxi.
Yeah.
I need
86 also ended very well. But anyways.
Yeah.
The Mummy.
Anyways, The Mummy. All right. Well, you can find me on Twitter at WRITERSERENYTY, and you can find me playing my gotcha game bullshit after this. So.
Oh yeah. All right. Have fun.
Bye, guys.
Good luck.
Enjoy your week. Have a fun week, everybody.
Bye.
Yeah. Have a good one.
Watch a movie. Play some video games. Read a book.
Be nice to yourself.
Yeah. Drink a soda. I don't know. I didn't want to say drink a beer because not everybody drinks. If
you drink alcohol, drink one responsibly.
Eat some food you like or something.
Yeah.
Do something nice for yourself.
Just be nice to yourself, and
you should definitely get your pet spayed and or neutered.
Brush your teeth.
These aren't
floss.
fun things. This is like necessary things though.
Oh, okay. Well, brush your teeth while furiously dabbing.
Oh, that is fun. Okay.
Oh,
or in the shower.
Just
If you
dab all
dab
over
furiously in the
place.
shower, you're gonna smack your hands on the walls,
Or
and
you're
it's
gonna
not
fall over.
Or
if
you're gonna
you-
fall over and damage your tailbone.
Yeah.
Worth it.
Okay. Well,
Okay, bye.
Sounds good.
please send send a video of yourself furiously dabbing with a swimsuit on in the shower. Not listeners. Alex, do that.
Oh, all right.
Oh.
Sure.
Post
no
it on
problem.
Twitter. Yeah.
Yeah, no problem. Okay, bye.
Bye, everybody.
Bye, folks.